All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. This is our book study of the 5-second rule. So hope everyone is enjoying it. Looks like it's going to be just Christy and me talking today, unless somebody joins us, but that's all right. We're good with that. So just to start with chapter 1. Well, and Christy, Mel Robbins talked to us at convention years ago. Were you there for that one?
I
I
was.
assume you were. You never miss convention. Okay.
That would be silly.
Yeah, it would.
It'd be such a bad decision.
Yes, it would. So what are some takeaways that you have from chapter 1? I want to break it down by chapter. So what are some takeaways you have from chapter 1?
I liked, she talks about how the 5-second rule is just very individual, and she's like, people are like, how can it work for everybody? How can it work for everything? And it's because it's really something that is very, very specific just to each person. And I like where she says it wakes up the inner genius, leader, rock star, athlete, artist, and change agent inside of you. Um, because no matter what the thought is, if you make the decision to just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, take action,
Right.
it can change everything. It really, really can. And I like how she shares lots of other people's examples of how it has applied to them and how they've used it, because it really does show that it can be used for everything from exercising to creating a nonprofit.
Or one of the stories she shared in chapter 1 was somebody who said that they're using it to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was curious how that works, because it's to stop drinking is like to not take an action. But it is still, it's a decision.
I think it's making a decision to have something else, or to walk away from the cabinet, or to call your sponsor. Like when she talks about the contemplating suicide. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he called for help, and that saved his life.
Yeah. In fact, that one might have been right below the one about not drinking. Yeah, it is. I just that one stuck out to me because there's someone close to me who is actually celebrating 20 years clean and sober this month.
Amazing.
But it's just, I've been tangentially exposed to the 12-step program because of that. It's like, wonder how that works in terms of recovery. So that one kind of stuck out to me. So, so some of my takeaways were, there was another one of the stories earlier in the chapter where it was Jenna's story, where she says that she had just started putting the 5-second rule into action, but and that she's using it in building her Yoli business. I had to look up Yoli because I had no idea what that is. But she says, I take 5 seconds and just ask. I just talk to someone and bring up my business. As you talked about it, thinking about the answer rather than thinking about doing it can be very intimidating in this kind of business. And I underlined that because that's the problem that I have sometimes. I'm already thinking about what their response is going to be before I've even sent the message or talked to the person. So that's an area that I need to work on. Another one that stuck out to me from chapter 1 was where she mentioned that they took a survey of 2,000 people or 2,400 people, something like that, and discovered that nearly half of them take 24 minutes to get out of bed. I can relate to that.
I can relate to that.
It wasn't like that when I taught, although I deliberately had my alarm set where I had time to press the snooze twice. The third time the alarm went up, I had to get up. But Nowadays, I don't even have that. I do have an alarm go off in the morning, and I turn it off and I roll over and go back to sleep.
Yes, we have a joke in our house, early bird gets the worm, because I say, I don't like early bird gets the worm. Um, Prior to my shoulder surgery, my alarm went off. I got up, I put on my exercise clothes, and I went to the gym. And I was there every morning, no later than 8 a.m. Um, and that started my day, and I did whatever. And then post surgery, I just haven't recovered from that. And sometimes I find myself like I do get my alarm goes off at 6:55, and I'll push snooze once or twice, and then I will roll over and get my phone and read my scriptures on my phone and fall back asleep. And sometimes I don't wake up until like 9:30 or 10. And my husband's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like I
Mhm.
have to, if I have to take my son to meet with a personal trainer at 10 a.m., I have to set my alarm. I'm like, what is that? Who have I become? How did it get to this that I have to set my alarm in order to show up somewhere at 10 a.m.? That's crazy. And I hadn't given it a lot of thought. I've started thinking about it like with New Year's and resolutions and stuff. But this, when I was reading that part, I was like, yes.
Mhm.
Because the early
Well,
bird
and
does actually get the worm. Like, who am I kidding waking up at 10 a.m.? Like, okay.
yeah, I don't like worms.
Yeah, that's what I told my
So I'm
husband.
not interested.
I don't even like worms, you know? But I did get a lot more done in my business when I started my morning at the gym
Mhm.
at 8 a.m. I just did. Things flowed better for me.
Well, and I previously had a habit of getting up in the morning and walking.
Mhm.
And actually that was before we had this dog. Now this dog loves to go for walks. And so now I take her with me when I walk. But I think I've told you about this before that it got to the point that one day I didn't get up as early, so I didn't go walk, but then I couldn't figure out what to do with myself because I hadn't walked that morning.
Mhm.
So it used to be just that was the ritual part of my morning. And I'm trying to get back to that, but it's hard.
It is
It's
hard.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll get there. I'll get there. Keep trying.
Five, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep. So, um, in reading this book, did you find it echoes Atomic Habits quite a bit?
Yes.
I kept
Yeah.
encountering things in the book that took me back to Atomic Habits, like Habit Loop,
Hmm.
which I went back and looked up. I knew that was in Atomic Habits, but I went back and looked up exactly what it consists of, just for the sake of discussion, that a habit loop is a cue, craving, response, reward that completes the loop. I think she's going
Hmm.
to get into it later in this book, but I knew that I had already encountered that in Atomic Habits.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I guess we just discussed our negative habit loop.
We did. We did.
So, all right, shall we move on to chapter 2?
Uh-huh.
All right. Did you have any takeaways from chapter 2? It was super duper short, so
And I feel like
um,
she really covered this again at convention. She
yeah.
talked a lot about why it even got started. Um,
Hmm.
but it also kind of gave me hope. Like I feel like I'm in a place right now where I'm not happy with how my business is performing. I'm not happy with my exercise habits. There's certain things that I'm not happy with. Um, and I'm like, to know that she went like had great success, because I have had multiple great successes. I'm reading another book called Be Seen, and she suggests that you write a list. She calls it "I'm a badass" list, but I'm not a big fan of that word, so I would probably call it another list. But writing down all the great things, the things that you've achieved,
Hmm.
things that you've done, the things that you've accomplished, and return to that when you're feeling not good enough or feeling like you won't. I never achieve that, or you're not feeling great, your self-esteem's a little down, and have
Mhm.
that handy to look at. And so I've been giving that some thought because I'm in the middle of that book and thinking, I have achieved a lot. I know how
Mhm.
to do certain things. I know how to hit certain milestones. Um, but in that book, it talks about how sometimes we don't repeat it. Like we do the things to achieve something, and then instead of repeating it, we get lazy. And I feel like I've gotten lazy in some things. And so I've liked, you know, it was just kind of hit home to me like she had great success. She had these things, and then things kind of got bad, which happens to all of us, right? We don't
Mhm.
all stay at the height of success forever.
Right.
Um, and so I appreciated her sharing, the stuff, and it came down to at the end of it, getting out of bed, which again really hit home with me. Like, Christy, just freaking get out of bed and start. Put your shoes on. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
go.
Well, like later, one of my takeaways still took me back to Atomic Habits again with the Twyla Tharp story about how her morning ritual was to, get up, put on her workout clothes, and go get in a cab.
Hmm.
And that was the ritual.
Right.
The workout was the reward. Getting in the cab was the ritual.
Yeah.
So, what was the title of that book again that you were talking about?
Called Be Seen. Can you see her last name?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wrote that down. At the very least, I think I'm going to make myself, at the very least, I think I'm going to make myself a list of things I have accomplished in my
Yes.
life, not just in my business.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing because it's all you,
Mhm.
right? Like I have done some hard things in life. You have, everybody has. And so
Right.
give yourself credit for coming out on top.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So some of the things that stuck out to me in this chapter, I had 2 points on page 30, and I realized that you're probably listening or using Kindle and you don't know where
Mhm.
page 30 is. But there's a place in the chapter where it breaks into three columns.
Oh, got it.
Okay, so I'm like a full page above that.
Okay.
So that's on page 31, that
All
it
right.
breaks into the three columns. Um, One is at the end of the paragraph. Do you mind? Where are you going?
Hey, Lola.
Excuse me 1 second. Do you want down? Do you want down? Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. There you go. I set her down and I dropped her. Um, okay. It's at the end of a paragraph. It says, but knowing what you need to do isn't enough to create a change. And that was like, that just kind of hit me over the head, like, duh. But
Right.
it's true. It's like I shouldn't need to be told that, but it was. And then a little bit like the third paragraph down from that, the part I underlined is that's what your mind does when you focus on problems. It magnifies them. And I thought, I've heard that somewhere before about what you focus on grows.
Yes. It expands. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's it. That was the word. It expands.
Yep.
So, and it's like, it just, as an English teacher, it has always fascinated me how all of literature is like a giant web. It all connects to something else, which
Mm-hmm.
connects to something else, and just finding common themes in things that I read. Um, so just seeing things come up here that I've heard from somewhere else. I've been hearing a lot of Emily Gibson's coaching in this book too.
Yeah.
Especially that the part about how the brain is wired to keep you safe.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
for
there you go,
sure.
being human again.
Yep.
So, and it just more of that web. So it reinforces and reminds me of what I already know, but apparently I needed to be reminded.
Well, it, like you said, it's all connected. The other book I'm reading right now, um, is Paris Hilton's memoir, and she
Hmm.
describes life as a spirograph. Remember the spirograph
Hmm.
toy and the different colors that it
Hmm.
spins? She's like, everything is connected. Like it
Hmm.
all comes back. It's all, and it's the same as your web. That she uses the word spirograph and how just every little thing is,
Hmm.
um, connected. It really is. And it comes back and you look back at things and you just go, I mean, I do this all the time. And I tell people, like, when you're going through crap, you're going to look back at some point and go, that's why that happened. Now
Yeah.
I'm totally ready for this. Or
Right.
that's why that happened because it saved me from this. Like it's all connected, in my
Hmm.
opinion,
Yes,
as long as you
definitely.
stay in motion. That
Yes.
I think is really huge. And I think that's where this book, Anatomic Habits, and, you know, you got to keep moving,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Well, and the other point that I noted was it's on page 33, the paragraph about um honoring your instincts. It's under the part, it's got the bold heading, and I desperately wanted to change. I just didn't
Got it.
know how.
Uh-huh.
Okay, the paragraph immediately below that. But this is an important point in my story. This instinct to launch myself out of bed was my inner wisdom talking. Hearing it was a tipping point. Following its instructions was life changing. Your brain and your body send you signals to wake up and pay attention. This idea of launching myself out of bed is an example of that. Your instincts may seem stupid in the moment, but when you honor them with deliberate action, it can change your life. So
Yeah.
that was the point
Yeah.
that hit home for me. That last sentence was the part that I underlined. Your instincts may seem stupid in the moment, but when you honor them with deliberate action, it can change your life.
Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely.
Well, and then down there in the next paragraph, and I've noticed this happening, the last sentence of that paragraph, or last two sentences, when you set a goal, your brain opens up a task list. Whenever you are near things that can help you achieve those goals, your brain fires up your instincts to signal to get that goal completed. I've noticed that too, that when I get out of the mindset of something, I'm not even thinking about it, and those little indicators don't even pop up. But when I shift the mindset back into, say, working my business, um, those little indicators pop up. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. When I may have gone weeks without thinking about that, but then I've opened up, this is what I need to do going forward. And then those little things start popping up again.
And I
So
think
it's
that's
just,
where it becomes important to, you know, whether it's have a post-it note on your desk
mhm,
or have your vision board up or whatever it is, like the reminders
right.
of like what are you supposed to be working towards? And it's one thing to
Hmm.
have a vision board, it's something else to spend 5 minutes looking at it each day
Hmm.
and firing up your brain to be like, how are we going to achieve this? Because your brain wants you to win. Like it will give you ideas of how to accomplish things
Hmm.
until you tell it, I could never do that. And then it's like, oh, okay. So be
Okay.
careful. Yeah.
Hey, never mind. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to keep you safe, so never mind.
Never mind. You might fail, so let's not do it. Like that's being aware of that and moving forward.
Okay. Anything else in chapter two?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Moving on to chapter three. I already mentioned the thing about Twyla Tharp's ritual from Atomic Habits. I got that out of chapter three, actually. Because the starting ritual is right there at the bottom of the first page of chapter three. All right, come here. You wanted down a minute ago. My dog's not spoiled.
They all are. Don't you think wasn't it in Atomic Habits also where this along this same line, this starting ritual, but he would use it like when I would walk through the front door or walk through a door in the house or walk into like walking through the threshold, like he would have certain
Mhm.
indicators of like, okay, how am I going to be more kind to the people in this room or just whatever. And I think that's the starting ritual, like you were saying about her getting in a cab, you
Right.
know, have certain things that you do all the time, adding on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was something about when he walked in the front door of the house, he wasn't the person he was at work anymore. When he walked in, he was father and husband
Yeah.
kind of thing, and
Mhm.
wanted those to be the best moments of his day
Yeah.
and something like that.
Right. Because it is hard to switch over when you do lots of different things.
Right. Well, and it can be easy to bring work home with you and the mood that you were in, and you've had a bad day and you come home and then you're grouchy to the spouse and grouchy to the dog, and
Yes.
they don't deserve it. They did nothing to contribute to that. Um, okay. What thoughts did you have on chapter 3?
I didn't finish it.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm no help moving forward because I remembered it was Friday today at 11 a.m. So I
No
got two
worries.
chapters done. So
No
take us
worries.
home,
Well,
sister.
and I did shift gears at one point after I read the first 2 chapters and thought, those were really short. Maybe we should just do one part each
Yeah.
week, because each part of the book, there are 5 parts and there's roughly 4 chapters. Some of them look like they have an introduction section before they get into the chapters in each of the parts, but felt like maybe 5 parts is a good breakdown, because the chapters just read really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So let's see, what did I have on this chapter? Uh,
She does mention you were asking about the drinking thing, and she said if I started pouring a drink that I shouldn't have, I'd 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, put down the bottle of bourbon and walk away.
mhm,
You know.
yeah. Yes, and I did come to that later after making the note about the story earlier in the book. Um, Having been exposed to addiction and recovery, I think there's sometimes where it's going to take more than that, but that's beside the point for this book.
Correct.
Um, so I like that she keeps coming back to, and of course she would, because it's called the 5-second rule, but she keeps coming back to there's that 5-second window that
Mhm.
it takes 5 seconds for your brain to talk you out of what you know you should do.
Yeah. And do you remember, she maybe will get into this, but I don't mind saying it now, but one of the things she talked about at convention was it's important to go backwards,
Mhm,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because it causes
mhm,
your brain has to think more. Like when you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that's not even that does not cause your brain to like stop.
right.
And by
In
going counting backwards, it causes your brain to have to stop and think, which
mhm,
shuts down that neural pathway, which is the
mhm,
goal here of
mhm.
stop the negative thought or stop the action and move forward.
In chapter 4
Is
of
that what
Why
she
the Rule Works,
okay.
she and it chapter 4 is set up like an FAQ,
Okay.
and somebody asked her, um, or well, somebody did ask her, but yeah, she's got the story right here in a little box. It says, pertaining to the 5-second rule, I've also found that it doesn't work if I count from 1 to 5. If I do that, I am tempted to say 6, and then the action is stalled. I have to count down from 5 to 1, because the next word in my mind after 1 is blast off. And that is definitely an action word.
Right.
And so then in the paragraph just above that, she had said, if you're wondering if the rule works if you count forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the answer is no. It just doesn't. Um, so it's the counting backwards is what makes your brain stop.
Mhm.
If we were counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we could just continue forever, which defeats the
Correct.
purpose.
And I
No, but the
just,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's like, okay, now what? And we do, having grown up in the age of NASA and space exploration and seeing launches on television, it's always the countdown from 10 to 1
mhm,
and then
blast off.
blast off. So that's just part of our culture.
Well, and I had missed this ever in her speaking or before, but I'm looking at chapter 3 where Jenny, who wanted to take control of her health, and it stood out to me because you just talked about the action word, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, healthy. And I was like, oh. And another one says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You know, and she's not even talking about it in that way, but I really like, hey, at, like having an action word after, even if it is just blast off, but if it's something in particular,
I
even if
do
it's
feel like an action word is going to be more effective than 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 healthy. I think in that story though, she said she would do that on her way into the grocery store
right.
is when she
Yeah.
would say
And
5, 4, 3, 2, 1
mhm,
healthy, and she would focus on purchasing healthy things instead of junk food.
yes.
Um, but I feel like for me, and I think that was what my hang up was with the story in chapter 1 where the guy said he used it to get sober because and like I mentioned
Like the
earlier, I felt
opposite
like
action.
yeah, yeah, it's a negative action.
Right.
It's a don't do that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, but I do know that that's part of AA is they have to make the decision daily.
Yes.
I'm not going to drink today.
Hmm.
And that's why, one day at a time is a big part of the recovery mindset. I'm not going to drink today
Yes.
because today is all you have. But anyway, to get back to the rule, I think, and certainly for me, an action word is going to be more effective.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. Five, four,
Right.
three, two, one, fold that laundry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Five,
Five,
four,
four,
three,
three,
two,
two,
one,
one.
send that
Send the
message.
message. Yep. Send the message. Yeah. No, I agree. Yep.
No, five,
Five,
four, three,
four,
two,
three,
one,
two,
stop
one.
scrolling Facebook.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go into my office.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So, all right, let's see what else I have on chapter 3. Um, there's also a place where she says in chapter 3, hold on, let me back up to it. Back there where she had the four things. If I started to this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'd do that.
Hmm.
Okay. On the page after that, below Rebecca's story,
Okay.
in the paragraph, she says, forget motivation, it's a myth. I don't know when we all bought into the idea that in order to change, you must feel eager or feel motivated to act. It's complete garbage. I was like, okay. Yeah, and it gave me permission to just kind of let go of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm a firm believer in that. You are rarely going to feel motivated. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Tony Horton, who created the P90X program and has worked out
mhm,
forever. And the
mhm.
guy asked him, like, do you like working out? And he was like, not really. I like the benefits of working out. And he's like, well, how do you get up and do it? I mean, he's like, the benefits. Like, I don't like some days I'm excited, like, let's go to the gym. He said, but mostly no, you know? And I was
Yeah.
like, this is a guy who's
Well,
made his entire living on exercising and helping people exercise. He's like, no, I'm not. I don't want to go to the gym, but I do, you
Well,
know?
see, and that goes back to atomic habits and the habit loop. And each habit began its life as that's not the one. That's not the idea I wanted. Um, but that the reward is the real cue for the habit. You
Yes.
want the change in how it makes you feel.
Mhm.
I think it's this thought. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state.
Yes.
So, yeah, workout leads to feeling better, being more healthy, being stronger. That's the reward, not the workout itself. The workout is what you have to do to get there.
Yes. I'm resetting right now, and I would way rather have a sandwich.
I did my reset earlier this week.
How'd you do?
So, I actually lost almost 9 pounds,
Wow.
but I felt like that was kind of artificially. The first day when I got on the scale, I was like, whoa, that I felt like for some reason, the number was artificially elevated that day because the first day I lost 5. And
It
then the rest was
happens.
over the next 2 days. I mean, maybe
Rob,
maybe I was retaining water. I don't
Rob
know,
loses
but
10 to 12 pounds every time he does it.
well, but that's the difference in male and
Well,
female.
and the thing is, like, I've done it twice. I've tested this theory twice of doing it while I'm on my period, and I only lose like 2 pounds. So that's why, like, I started on Sunday, even though I had just posted, gonna do my reset, thinking I would do it on Monday, but I started my period on Sunday night. And I was like, nope, not going to, because
Yeah.
so depending on what's going on in your body, I mean, it's real,
Hmm.
a real deal.
So yeah, I finished up yesterday. It wasn't as much of a struggle as what it's been other times. So that
That's
was that was a relief because
good.
some days I break down after like 2.5 days and like I can't do it anymore. And
But
I'll
you
wind up
can.
eating dinner, but I got through all 3 days this time.
Yay!
Yay.
Good for you.
So, um, all right. Shall we move on to chapter 4? Even though we got started late, we can try to finish up within the hour. All right. Let's see. And you commented you didn't get that far.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, and I mentioned already that uh the chapter is set up like an FAQ. Um, and I liked that because it kind of let me know I'm not alone because these are a lot of like skeptical thoughts that I'd had.
Mhm.
Questions like, well, what exactly is it? How do I use it? Why is it called the 5 second rule? The rule sounds like Nike's tagline, just do it. And then she explains the difference between just do it and 5 4 3 2 1 followed by an action word.
Yeah.
Um, is there a 5 second window of opportunity for everyone? Yes. There is a window for everyone between the moment you have an instinct to change and your mind killing that instinct. That your mind starts working against you in nanoseconds. The barrage of thoughts and excuses don't seem to kick into full force and stop you for a few seconds. That 5 second window seems to work for everyone.
And wouldn't you agree? Like the times when I've challenged you to send like X number of messages,
Hmm.
um, like when I create a voice memo that I'm going to send to multiple people, once I do that,
Hmm.
and then I'm just like, send to 5, send to the next 5. Like that is so easy. I don't even have time to be like, they don't want to hear from you. But do you know what I'm saying? Because once
Right.
you go and you send them quickly, you
Hmm.
know, now what would interrupt it would be if somebody sends a message and because you remember my other thing is don't open any of responses until you're done. Because if
Right.
somebody sends something that is not, yes, sign me up right now, you are now gone. You've lost your like action taking
Right.
motion.
Right.
right? And so,
Yeah.
I would agree. Once you go, if you keep going, it's
Well,
so
and as
much.
long as I have a list in front of me, it's not unusual for me to exceed the goal once I get started. I might have a goal of sending 10 and I'll get the 10 cent and think, well, let's just send 10 more. The list is right here.
Right. Just keep going. Can
Yeah,
always add to the list or then have more follow up, you know?
right. Exactly. So, yes, agreed. Absolutely. Um, so this was another place where I kept hearing Emily Gibson's voice again in reading this chapter because she talks a fair amount about the brain
Mhm.
in this one. Why does something so simple work? Um, that the moment you want to change, break a habit, or do something hard or scary, your brain goes to work to stop you. And I just kept hearing, because your brain wants to keep you safe. Your brain is hardwired to keep you safe. And there you
Mhm.
go, being human again.
Human. Yeah.
So, um, and then at the very end of chapter 4, she talks briefly, and I think she says, I will explain this in detail in part 4 of the book, but she talks briefly about the golden rule of habits. And it's very simple. In order to change any bad habit, you must replace the behavior pattern that you repeat, which is atomic habits all over again.
Right. Mhm.
Replace the
It's
behavior that you want to kill with a better behavior.
and it's the same in thought coaching
Mhm,
in the idea that I think I maybe shared this with you. Like we all have that negative person in our head who kind of has shot down all the ideas or not made us feel great about ourselves or whatever. And it's a meaningful person. It's not a stranger, but that and to stop it and go, you know what, Susie, I'm not listening to you today.
mhm,
Whoever normally would be your naysayer,
mhm,
not listening to you today. Angie, what would you do you think I could do it? You know what I'm saying? It's like
mhm,
stop it or mental tennis, which is the negative thought comes in and you just paused it, like shoot it back over the court. Just don't give it space.
mhm,
Don't give it
mhm.
space.
Well, and I may have shared with you before, my husband is the bubble popper in my life.
Yeah.
And I've told him I need him not to be a bubble popper. I need him to be supportive. And I think sometimes he thinks he's being supportive in popping my bubble, but
Yes.
he's like, because he said, well, I'm just being realistic. I was like, I
No,
can
look,
do that all on my own.
yeah,
I just need you to be supportive.
right.
So,
Yep.
and someplace in here, yeah, um, still in chapter 4, the section where she says, what can I use it for? And then there's the 3 bullet points below that.
Yeah.
Next to you can use it to control your mind, I wrote down stop bubble popping because that's actually something I've had to recognize about myself is I have been a bubble popper
Hmm.
and
Okay.
I have to catch myself, not just my bubble, but I've been a bubble popper to others as well.
Yeah.
And I have to catch myself and say, don't be that way. Don't do that.
People don't need
And I
help popping bubbles.
wonder why I even started being that way. But I think it's human.
It is human. And it's normal and it is accepted and it's comfortable, but that's not what
Mhm.
you're trying to be. You're not trying to be normal or comfortable. You're about to get uncomfortable, you know.
Right? Yeah, that was something else I noted somewhere about not being comfortable. Was it the Brene Brown quote at the beginning of this chapter?
Oh, I don't know.
Yes. You can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot have both. So, and I put a
Yep.
star next to it.
I don't disagree with that. Yep. Your comfort zone is usually not a great place to be hanging out in.
Well, and the fact that all my tutoring gigs have dried up has put me in a financial place that's not comfortable to be in, but
Comfortable.
I'm gonna fix that.
You are going to fix it.
Gonna enroll 6 people this month.
Yeah, you
Mama
are.
needs $400.
$400. Do it. Do it.
I mean, I could take or leave the Stanley Cup. I need the $400.
Correct. I do too. I do too. Um,
So, so yeah, one of the notes I wrote in the margin on that idea of comfort, one of the notes I wrote in the margin when I was hearing Emily Gibson in my ear is that the brain is hardwired to keep you safe. It will always try to keep you in your comfort zone.
mhm. Yeah.
So, and I can't stay here anymore. So,
You didn't
anything
wake
else
up to keep
jumping out
doing
at you
this.
as I'm sorry?
I said you didn't wake up today to keep doing the same thing over and over again.
That is true.
I do like the big, huge bold at the end. If you have the courage to start, you have the courage to succeed. Or is that the beginning of part two?
I
Must be the
think that's
beginning
the
of
end.
part two.
These seem to, well, I don't know.
I don't know.
But
Uh,
yeah, she's got these pages with the broken line and the scissors, like we're supposed to cut those out and post them, and I just might have to do that. Except I don't like to, I don't mind writing in my books. I don't like cutting them out.
yeah, I write all over my
I
books.
could scan it. I could scan it. Yeah, the one with everyday courage comes before the beginning of part one. So probably if you have the courage to start, you have the courage to succeed is probably because part two is the power of courage. So we're going to call that the beginning of the next part.
And I think it's very important, how she ends the chapter with everything that you think might be set in stone, including your habits, mindset, and personality, are flexible. The implications of this for your life are
Mhm.
absolutely thrilling because so many people are like, I've always been like that. It's just the way I am.
Well,
Or
and
not.
that's totally a letting yourself off the hook
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think being very aware that just because that's the way you've taken action in the past or spoken in the past or felt in
Mhm.
the past does not mean that's the way you have to continue.
Right,
You
right,
100% change.
for sure. So, okay, so next week, part two,
Yep.
chapters 5 through whatever that entails. Probably five, 6, 7, 8 would be my guess.
I'm excited about courage.
Okay. Shall we end recording?
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.